Our breakout session today is sponsored by Women in Work. We are so grateful for their generous support to help make this session possible. Those are some excellent girls who work there. You can learn more about Women in Work by visiting their booth in the exhibit hall or also going to their website. They have lots of excellent resources that I would recommend to you. So between 55 and 60% of American women are employed in the labor force. But we know that all women were created to work, and we work at a wide variety of different things, right? We are changing diapers, we are doing dishes, we are volunteering, we are writing emails or running meetings, we work in hospitals and corporations, we work at home, we work at church. Women do a wide variety of different tasks. If you read books on time management or working, a lot of them, and I've read a lot of them are written by men, and they just concern themselves with the corporate life, which is a little bit frustrating if you're a woman who also has to carry a whole caring for the home as well. And so I'm hoping today that we can start to pour a little bit of wisdom into how to do all of those things excellently. I am joined here. Here's a panel with me. We're going to quick introduce ourselves to you. And my name is Sarah Zylstra. I write for the Gospel Coalition full-time. I tell stories of where God is at work in the world. And I also have a husband and two sons who are 12 and 16.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeany. Outside the home, I'm actually an associate professor in a pharmacy school and also the department chair. And at home, we have three kids. I have a daughter who's 21 in college. I have an 18-year-old who's going to college, and then a 16-year-old in high school.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elissa Weichbrodt. I teach art history at Covenant College. I'm an associate professor of art and art history. I have two boys who are 10 and 12, and with my husband, we've also been homeschooling them, though we'll be making a transition to traditional school, as my oldest calls it, coming up. So our sort of work and home life is about to look really different than whatever I'm sharing with you today.
Hey everybody, my name is Joanna Kimbrel. I work here at the Gospel Coalition, part-time as a content coordinator. I am in the littles phase, so I have two daughters. Eliana is 5 years old, and Grace is 2 years old.
So we asked these women to join us because they've been excellent at balancing things, and they're also, as you can tell, in a little bit different stages of life. We know this doesn't even come close to encompassing all the situations that you are in. There are single women who are also trying to balance this. There are those of you who are caring for elderly parents who are trying to balance this. There's any number of different family situations and responsibilities that you're carrying. And I know we're not going to hit every last thing, but I do hope that there will be wisdom here that you can glean for your situation as well. I have some questions for this panel. You might have some too, so just stick those in your back pocket while we're talking, and there will be time at the end for us to do some question and answers. So here's my very first question, which is the biggest one I have. I want to be good at everything. I want to be a good mom. I want to be excellent at work. I want to serve my church well. I want to glorify God in all the things that I'm doing. I just want to do it really well. And yet, of course, I have limits. I get tired. Maybe you guys do too. And so how can we manage both of those realities?
Just to start off with a little bit of my background. I grew up in California, child of immigrants, and I wanted to pursue the career and the family. At my local church, though, when people started having kids, a lot of the women in my church stopped working to care for their kids at home. But I continued to work full-time, and I felt extremely guilty about it. And actually, it was at that stage when I had two kids, young kids. I went to a women's conference held at my church, and Susan Hunt was the speaker, and she's here now. And she was talking about our design by God. And she wasn't talking about you need to quit your job to be a good mom. She said you need to understand who you are in Christ, your identity as a child of God, and understand your purpose. And it was liberating because it didn't matter for me like whether I continue to work or I stayed home. But that I was living out my purpose, which was to glorify God in all that you do with all the gifts, the talents, and the skills that He's given you to do, and using it for God's kingdom. Now, fast forward just a little bit, when my third child was born, I came home from a full days of work, and my husband looked at me, and he pointed to all of our 3 kids, and he said, "You know, they're all yours, and they're not going away." And after being mad for a little bit, God spoke to me, and I said, "You know what, you're right. My mom was actually forced into retirement to help me watch my kids. And if you watch 3 kids by yourself, it's hard. And yet I was asking my mom to do that for me, and I knew that wasn't fair. And so I came to this moment where I said, okay, I need to surrender my work. So I went to my academic dean, and I said, you know, I'm going to have to stay home. And, you know, I came out all sad. I spoke with a colleague of mine who was a Christian woman. I told her I just resigned. She's like, why'd you resign? We could job share. I said, I didn't know faculty can job share. She's like, you know what? If they want to keep both of us, maybe they'll work something out. So we actually walked back into the academic dean's office. I said, forget about what I just said. Could we actually job share and I'll work 1 day a week and she'll work 4 days a week? What do you think? And he actually said yes. So I was able to actually work 1 day a week, keep my foot in the door so I don't lose all of the stuff that I learned, but be able to do that. But I realized I was only able to get there because I had to surrender my work first. And when I was able to let that go, God opened this amazing door that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that idea of surrender, and surrendering our desires or surrendering the plans that we have for our life as being critical to finding this so-called balance that we're all looking for. I was raised in a context where I was taught that women should primarily be homemakers, that if I was going to be married, that pursuing a career outside of the home was the wrong thing to do. And so when I went, but that I should still get a college education. It was a little confusing. So I went to college. But towards the end of my time at college, I started dating the man who's now my husband. And I had all of these professors that were telling me, well, you're going to go to graduate school, right? And graduate school had never, ever been on my radar. A career in academia had never been on my radar. And I was sort of telling all of these male professors, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm probably going to get married to this guy, and if we get married, then we're going to have kids, and then I'm supposed to stay home. And it was actually Kathleen Nielsen who sat me down and who said, God doesn't give you good gifts as some sort of tease, right? God doesn't give you these capacities, these desires. He doesn't open doors for you to have to turn away from them. That's a sort of twisted view of a good father who dangles something in front of you and says, I'm testing you to see if you're like a real godly woman. You'll like say no to this good thing. And so I did go to graduate school. We struggled to become pregnant. And there was another moment of surrender where maybe I don't get to be a mom. So maybe my students are going to be my kids. Maybe career is what I'm supposed to do. Then God gave us these babies. And then maybe I'm not supposed to have a job. It's a lot of roller coaster, and a lot of what I've come to think of as Gideon fleeces of me just sort of like laying this out before God and saying like, if you want me to do this, you will X, Y, or Z. Things like, and God answered these because he's kind to his doubting children. Things like, God, if you want me to finish my PhD, you're gonna have to give me a baby that sleeps.
That doesn't happen.
He gave me a baby that
Okay,
sleeps.
never mind.
Because I had so little faith, he gave me a baby that regularly took 2 2-hour naps a day. It was it was insane. Like, what? Why are you doing that, God? And he's so that I could work, you know. And then right at the end of my time in graduate school, my dream job opened up, teaching at Covenant College, and I thought, nope, this is when I'm supposed to say no. I'm going to stay home with my 2 young children. And again, and my husband was like, why? God is giving you this good gift. He is opening up all of these doors. He is laying a straight path before you. Say yes to what he's doing while holding all that in open hands. And that's been really humbling for me because I felt like I did not set out to pursue this career, but God just one time after another, you know, answered all of those fleeces, opened all of those doors in these kind, generous ways. And so I feel really grateful for what I'm able to do. And like I can't hold it tightly because I wasn't seeking it out to begin with.
You know what I love about both of your stories is that it has the same heart of surrendering what you're holding on to, but that actually looked opposite. So that meant you working less and it meant you working more than you expected. And I think that what can happen so often is it can be so easy to either idolize work or to idolize family, and we have to surrender that. And I know that I have experienced both of those in my life. I had a season where I realized after the fact how much I was actually idolizing my work. And it's not a fun thing to have your idols revealed and exposed, but my job and my title started to become the primary source of my identity and my value and my worth. And the Lord graciously and painfully showed that to me. And I remember in that season where work was becoming this most central and important thing, I started to begin to change my ideas of what my family should look like. So my husband and I had always talked about having another baby, and that's what we wanted to do. And I found myself saying, I don't think I'm gonna have that other baby because I can't take off 6 weeks when the baby's born, and that's gonna maybe mess up my job title. And don't get me wrong, it's not wrong to change your mind about how many kids you wanna have, but I was not prayerfully considering, God, how can I honor you with my family? I was thinking, how can I make sure I hold on as tightly to this role and this identity as I can? And when I realized that, it's heartbreaking, but it was in surrendering that there is so much joy and so much freedom in knowing that work is purposeful, but it is not my ultimate purpose. It's not my ultimate identity, but God is the one. He calls us to work, yes, and it's going to look different for every woman. For some, it might be full-time. For some, it might be part-time. It might be inside the home, outside the home. But we have to surrender those idols before we get there.
I think that's really good. So I feel like we've been talking sort of at a 30,000-foot view, maybe, and let's take it down one level of when you were, so you were all doing some sort of balancing, for lack of a better word. You're living inside your limits. You're not able to be all the things to all the people at all the time. How do you live inside those limits in a way that honors God?
I must confess first that I am a detail-oriented perfectionist. Sometimes I like to call that working with excellence.
Got me.
And again, working with excellence is good. And trying to make everything look perfect without typos and errors, it's being professional. But at the same time, there comes a point in time where that PowerPoint slide just can't get any better. And changing that color adds nothing to the slide. Especially if the people around you start suffering because you're not around. I would spend hours revising my lectures and videos for every single lecture that I have to give. And I teach a lot, which means a lot of my kids, my husband, felt very neglected. And you know, the thing is, in the workplace, if you do a good job, people actually come to you and ask you to do more, right? And so we also need to learn how to be assertive and know when to say no, because otherwise you'll just be asked to do more and more. There's studies that's actually quoted in Inside Higher Ed and the Harvard Business Journal that says that women actually provide many more hours of service at their workplace than their male counterparts. And they're doing service things that actually have nothing to do with their promotion. Okay, so I actually have a lot of conversations with my pharmacy students, particular the Asian female pharmacy students, about being assertive, because we have to be able to speak up on behalf of our patients. I also, as a department chair, have a lot of conversations with my female faculty on having to set some boundaries and not saying yes just because the president asks you to do something or somebody asks you to do something. And so I had to give this lecture on assertiveness, not because I wanted to. See the irony in that? What I learned is being assertive is you're being direct and honest with your ideas and opinions and desires. And so it's respectfully stating what you think, feel, and how you see the situation. So what that means is that other people can ask you to do things. It's their choice. But it's also up to you to be able to decline respectfully if you can't take that on. And so I think it's finding that balance to be able to know what you can say yes to and what you need to say no to.
Because you also want to be a servant, right?
That's right.
Well, and I think that question of saying yes and no is so important. And I think if anybody's like me, your go-to is to say yes, maybe because it sounds really exciting, or you just don't want to upset somebody. And so I actually had to develop like a list of questions that I ask myself to say, okay, can I say yes to this? Should I say yes to this or not? And that's really helped kind of establish some balance. So I do have those questions for you guys if you would like the questions. So the first one that I ask is, does saying yes or no enable you to love God and love others more? Because God says that that all of the law is summed up in love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So does this enable you to love God and love others well? Number two, does saying yes align with Scripture, or does it go against it? Some things are very clear that this is against God's word. And some things are not so clear. God doesn't tell us this is okay, this is not okay. And so at that point, we have to ask, number three, does it align with our conscience, or does it violate our conscience? Scripture tells us that if there is something that God does not say that this is good or bad to, and that we have kind of this check in our conscience that says don't do that, and we do it anyway, we're sinning. Even if the thing itself isn't sin, we're sinning if we violate our conscience. And then number four, why do you want to say yes? Or why do you want to say no? This is going to help you get at the heart of what is going on here. Is this something that you want to make your name great or make God's name great, right? Is this something that you feel like you have to do so you don't upset somebody? Or is this something that you genuinely want to do? Is it self-focused? Is it others-focused? Number five, how would you react if you had to say no? I think that one is really helpful because it helps us see if we're idolizing something, right? If we would be completely torn apart if we had to say no to something, maybe it holds too much weight in our hearts. Number six, I know I got a lot of questions, guys. Number six, what else do you have to say no to in order to say yes to this thing? So every yes has a cost. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And this also isn't a clear formula, like, well, I had to say no to this good thing, so this must not be good. Let me give you an example, because during the time that my church does women's Bible study, we do it twice a year, I say no to dinner with my family one night a week, but it's to go to women's Bible study. And so I have to weigh that cost, right? If I, have to say no to dinner with my family every night of the week, it would probably be a no. But that is, it is a cost, and that is saying no to a good thing, but it is for the purpose of another good thing. Number seven, can you keep the commitment? Do you have the capacity? Be honest with yourself, and if you don't, just say no. It's okay to say no. And number eight, is it something that you are equipped to do? If someone's asking you to lead something or to do this job, is this something that you are equipped to do, that you're able to do, and maybe that you're gifted to do?
I think those are such helpful questions to ask. I I'm thinking about how, as a woman in a predominantly male environment, I have a lot of male colleagues, realizing that I have a sort of double consciousness that's going on, to borrow from W.B. Du Bois, where I'm experiencing my life, but I'm also sort of trying to imagine how people are perceiving me as a woman in this space, as a biracial woman in this space. And I've had to let a lot of that go because I also want to be perfect. And I want to be perfect by the standards that other people have set for me, because I'm a real people pleaser and a real rule follower. Like I looked over the rules for speakers at TGC like multiple times just to make sure that I was doing this right. But I've realized that that is also a form of idolatry, right? For me to try to imagine and to manage people's perceptions of me in that way, not only is it impossible, it's also idolatrous. And so something that's been really helpful for me is to narrow in as specifically as possible on both my sort of my career purpose and my family's purpose. So like, what is my career vision and what is my family's vision? And these are not, it has to be more specific than to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. And it has to also be something that is not striving for a position, but a posture. Okay? So for me, my career vision is I want to help Christians understand how art makes us more human. And so that's sort of the sieve, the grid through which I sift different opportunities, whether they be at my institution or outside of my institution. And then our family's vision is they threw a good party. They threw a good party. That's our family vision.
That's awesome. Can I come hang out at your house?
It has been our vision since we were married. My husband and I, when we were newlyweds, we decided that hospitality was going to be our thing. Somebody challenged us to come up with like a headline for your marriage, and we said our headline for our marriage is "They threw a good party." And so we commit every week on Thursdays. We're missing it this week, but every week on Thursdays we open our home and we have people in our house for happy hour. And we've been doing it for 9 years now at this point. Like we went online during the pandemic, but God has blessed that, and that has been a thing that we're committed to, that we build the rest of our schedule around. And I don't want to say, I'm willing to say no to other good things because I know that I'm saying yes to throwing a good party every Thursday.
I love that. Let's bring it, pull this down even farther, like if we started up with the theoretical. Can you guys talk to me about practical, everyday, I lost my keys, how am I going to make this week's schedule work? Nitty-gritty details of how you use time well.
Yeah, I think that there are certain things that I know that I can do well, and there are certain things that are just harder for me. And so sometimes the things that are just a lot harder, I kind of outsource some of those. Like, I hate cleaning, guys. It's just awful. Those of you who love to clean, more power to you, but it's not me. So now I do my dishes and I do all of that, but when I started working, after I had my first daughter, I took a little bit of time off, and I started working. That was kind of part of the deal, that part of the money from work was going to go towards having someone come to my house every 2 weeks to do a deep clean, because I can't keep up with it all. I can't do both of those things. I think that sometimes we think as women, that's kind of our job, and if we're not doing it, then we're not doing enough. But the Bible never says, thou shalt not hire someone to help you with your house, It doesn't say that. And so some of those kind of tricks, I think you have to ask yourself, okay, what do I enjoy doing? I really love to cook, and so that's something that I continue doing as often as I can, because that isn't something that's going to put too much. But maybe you say, we're going to order DoorDash once a week, and it's going to be awesome, right? And so just kind of some of these things. One thing that's been super practical for me that a friend of mine taught me, I wonder if she's here. She's here somewhere. But her name's Hannah, and she said every night we do a 10-minute tidy. And so after I put the kids to bed, my husband and I tidy up for 10 minutes, and it just starts your day off the next day so much easier. And it's like, it's just 10 minutes, but it makes a huge difference. And so I'm not great at the cleaning rhythms, like I said, but that small little manageable step has really helped us a lot.
I was just going to mention Instacart.
Instacart.
Apparently, I saved 283 hours over the past 2 years of the pandemic by not going shopping. You know what that translates to? 7 weeks of working 40 hours a day. That's how much time I've saved.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Get that yearly subscription too. Man, I love Instacart.
But in practicality, 3 things that I do. Number 1 is on my way to work, I have a 30-minute commute. That's my time to pray with God. I get in the car, I start driving, I go, God, thank you that I get to go to work today. You know, work can be stressful, it can be awful, or it could be good, but I start off and I say, God, thank you that I can work, that I'm physically able to go to work, that I have a job, and that I get to do what I love. So it helps me to be in the right mindset as I start the day, to be able to just reflect on God's goodness. So even if all these bad things come up, it's like, no, He's got it all under control. Second thing that I do is, even on my work calendar, I actually schedule time with my family. Like, have dinner with husband, have dinner with daughter, have dinner, so, because I want quality time with each person. A little over 2 weeks ago, my husband and I just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. So we were finally able to go away on vacation, just the two of us, in 25 years. So it was magical. It was really wonderful to be able to just focus our time on each other, and that really helped to kind of refresh our friendship and our love for one another. So that was really, really helpful. And then finally, this year, really kind of the cornerstone of everything going on for me in terms of finding balance was daily Bible reading. I've been actually using the 5-day Bible reading plan. It's really good. But God's been changing my heart as I'm reading, because I'm actually almost done reading through the Bible already. I only have 4 weeks left. Because the Bible has become my best go-to drama, right? And so they only have you read maybe 5 or 6 chapters a day, but it's like you're stopping in the book of Esther. It's like, no, I gotta finish. I have to finish reading. You can't end on a cliffhanger. So it's become the best drama for me, just reading God's word. Because prior to that, I would just do all the talking, right? I pray and I say, God, can you help me with this? And I'm the one doing the talking, but I never stop to listen to what God has to tell me in his word. And so being in the word has been so good, and God's been changing my heart, because it's now no longer a chore or a duty. I'm a Christian, I have to read the Bible. It's like, no, God, you are so filled with wisdom. And you actually, God, are the one who can move people's hearts. So I'm gonna listen to your word, and I'm gonna soak up your word, because you are amazing. So I recommend that we all listen to him and his word.
Yeah, those are so good. My number 1 is spring rolls from Costco. Like, those help a lot. But also counterintuitively, between a sort of like Calvinist Puritan strain and being Asian American, like, I love working hard all the time, or feel like I should work hard all the time. We don't love things, we just like do them. But my mother challenged me when I started my current appointment. She challenged me to keep a Sabbath. She said, there's always gonna be so much work for you to do, but can you really commit to keeping a Sabbath? And I was really convicted by that. I had been like Sabbath light during grad school. But it has been transformative for my work practice to schedule in a Sabbath, to say I'm not going to do the grading and the prep work on Sundays, and instead I'm going to bake bread, or I'm going to take a nap, or I'm going to go for a walk. And then also scheduling rest with my family. So we've become avid Saturday morning hikers, not because we particularly love the outdoors, that we've grown to love it, but because if I'm out of the house, I can't also be grading. And so I think knowing some of those, being self-aware enough to know some of those places where you're going to need that outside accountability or those outside checks. And being able to sort of schedule that rest in, it's not the magic answer to productivity, but it is how God has designed us to flourish, right? And so if we think, oh, if I keep a Sabbath, I'm going to be so much more productive during the rest of the week, I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I'm going to keep a Sabbath so I can live, right? Like I can live fully into who God has called me to be and in the relationships that He has given to me.
That's really good. I've been thinking about time and a lot lately, and thinking about it, trying to almost think about it as a field. And I want my words around time not to be like, I want them to be like flourish or nurturing my time. I don't want it to be like, I feel like so often we're like grasping time, like how much can I get out of this time, or like squeezing time for every last thing that you can get out of it. And I want it to be more, that feels like over fertilizing a field, right? Like I don't want it to just be more like growing naturally. And one thing that struck me is, a stalk of corn in a cornfield is flourishing and beautiful and good, but a stalk of corn in a bean field is a weed. And sometimes I feel like my work and my home like mush together in a way that it's weedy, right? Like that's not the right place for it. Especially because I work from home. So then those things, there is no field boundary there. They're just all kind of together. So I'm wondering, I'm just throwing this curveball at you. How do you keep your things in the right spot?
I also work from home, and so does my husband. So all the work and all the things are just kind of all together. So because we work from home, we have more flexibility also with our child care, which can make things great and also challenging to separate that work-family divide. What has really helped us with the work from home is that we have, especially during the summer, we have help. So a few mornings a week, so I said I work part-time, about 25 to 30 hours a week. So a few mornings a week, we have a girl from our church who comes and she plays with our kids and she watches them. And my husband and I will talk the night before every day, and we'll say, what meetings do you have? What do you have going on? And we will kind of talk with each other to say like, okay, we're gonna schedule, you're going to be with the kids for lunchtime and you're going to put them down for their naps and everything. And this is a very unique situation, but if anybody else is like with kids, working from home, and so is your spouse, like that has been really helpful for us, is being on the same page in advance so there's not chaos when we go in to the rest of our lives. And we both kind of agreed because he used to work in an office and then he came to work at home, and we had to make the agreement from the beginning that we had a clock out time. And so even though we both have very flexible hours, we have a clock out time for the day, and we don't talk about work stuff after the clock out time. And it's also helped us to even schedule in time where we put away our phones, so we're not getting the email alerts and all of that, and it's just purely check-in time where we just talk throughout the day.
I don't know that I do this. I don't know that I have good boundaries, to be honest. I mean, I think part of it is we did decide, I teach at a Christian college. We decided early on as a family that we saw my students as an asset to my family, and we saw my family as an asset to my students. And so we We have students in our home a lot. We have students watching our kids. But I just finished teaching abroad for 3 weeks, and my family came with me on that. And a parent, I had not even thought about how the parents of my students would perceive this, but a parent had asked their child, oh, does Dr. Weichbrodt having her kids on this trip, is that taking away like her attention from you? And my student said, no, it's so much better with her kids here. So, I think when I was a student in college, I had so many male professors. I had very little understanding of what a work-life family relationship could look like, and our family has felt like very particularly called to being very transparent in my work with my students and letting them see some of that like messy in between stuff, and then being able to tell my students, like, this is probably too much information for you. I had to clean up vomit this morning, but he's fine. He just ate too much popcorn last night. And now I am here teaching you about Caravaggio, and both of those things matter so much to God. This is not more important than cleaning up vomit, and cleaning my house isn't more important than teaching you about Caravaggio. Like, these are both God-honoring, beautiful, beautiful things to do. And I'm going to talk about an image. There's this mosaic in Rome, in the Church of San Clemente, that has the cross, and the cross is flowering. It's covered in birds, and there's all of these vines that are extending out from the cross. And intertwined in the vines, all in this apse mosaic, are people working. So there's a monk who's writing a book, and there's a monk who's baking bread, and there's a woman who's working in her garden, and there's somebody who's tending to rabbits over here. And it's just this beautiful picture in a church of how all of our labor flows out from that vine, right? That we labor under the cross, we labor because of the cross, and all of it has a place for the people of God. And that mosaic has been so affirming for me, thinking about how there is no hierarchy of my labor if I'm doing all of it under the cross.
I want to be in your class. That really was so beautiful. Pre-pandemic, I had made a decision. I'm not going to bring work home. Pre-pandemic. But guess what? We all had to work at home during the pandemic. And I realized my master bedroom, where my desk and my teaching, my computers all set up, is also the space that I also am supposed to rest in. So I had a really hard time. So I had to, and having hard conversations with students. Sometimes I'm having hard conversations with the faculty, and it's still lingering in that space. So I had to leave the room, and I had to walk outside. I'm like, I have to get out of this room, because now this has become my office, but it's supposed to be my sanctuary, my bedroom. So that line was really blurred during the pandemic. I must say, getting a pandemic puppy was a real lifesaver. Because really, just coming out and petting the puppy just for a little bit, I'm like, okay, I'm refreshed. I can go back to whatever it is that I was doing. So that was really helpful. But I think the boundaries are really, really difficult. I'm thankful that I can actually now go back into an office again. But I don't want to make it a place for me to run away to so that I don't have to deal with stuff going on at home. So it's always trying to balance out, what time will you be home, who's able to, pick up the kids. And thankfully, my youngest just started driving, so I'm done with drop-off duties now. But I think it's really tough, and it's just balancing and talking it out with your spouse and other grown-up kids to be able to see who can help.
That's good. I think that's true, that your family sees your work better than you do and how much time that's taking. We have just a minute and a half. Anybody have a question? Yeah.
We've talked a lot about family and work, but how then do you throw in social life, friendships, even extracurricular activities you do outside of work?
Excellent question. So she said, we've talked a lot about family and work, but those can both be work, right? So how do you also mix in a social life, fun? Like, how do you have friendships outside? How do you do that kind of refreshing stuff? Ooh, that's good. Elissa throws a party.
I throw a party every Thursday. My husband and I are both introverts, so we decided that we were better on our home turf and making people come to us. And what's honestly something that's been really beautiful about that is that we have a lot of single people who come to our happy hour on Thursdays. And that has been so important for us for maintaining friendships with people who are in different life stages, who have different experiences, and also just a plug to if you are a married person and you're friends with a single working woman, celebrate her accomplishments in the career, because she doesn't have like that built-in team to do that for her. So we celebrate at happy hour, oh, so-and-so got a new job, so-and-so got a book contract, so-and-so has a birthday, and making sure that our single women also feel celebrated in the work that they're doing and are not just waiting for the real work to start if they get married someday.
Yeah, that's good.
Community is just so important. I think we forget how much it matters. Community with friends is going to make your work better, and it's going to make the way you interact with your family better. Yep. And so for me, that's one of those things that I have to make time to say yes to spending time with friends, even if it does mean getting a sitter for a night, or even if it does mean saying no to something else. That is not an extra thing. We're called to community in the body of Christ, and so it's just worth prioritizing.
I brought my friend to this conference.
That's good.
So a lot of our close friends who all started off in California all moved to different places. So we actually have to make scheduling months in advance to be able to gather together, to be intentional about our time. And it's families like moving from here to here. And so it takes a budget, so we have to save for that. And we have to plan months in advance to be able to get together. But when we do, it's so precious. And I feel like that helps us to last a couple of years until we go again.
That's awesome. We are out of time. I am so sorry. We will be up here if you have other questions and you want to talk to us. I hope so much that you enjoy the rest of the conference. It has been a delight to be with you today.